Ice Beans, and today I am talking to you about one of my favorite-ish games, Dead by Daylight. And I do mean ish. Now, why is it only one of my favorite-ish games? Because it's like a perfectly playable game, and that's about it. It's really easy to induct your friends into playing it with you. It is an asymmetrical co-op game, so that's ideal. But again, it's just playable. It has so much potential. It has so much going for it. So many opportunities for growth. But it's just fine. Before we proceed, if you're a fan of the game, great. I am a fan of the game too, and I just have criticisms of this thing and other things I love, and you're just gonna have to get used to that, because if you don't have criticisms of the things that you love, I feel sorry for you. Dead by Daylight is an asymmetrical, team-based, co-op survival game that asks players to repair generators and escape before a player killer kills them. I remember a ton of hype for this game in 2016, but they've done little to improve or twist upon the basic structure of the game since. It's a running joke in the Dead by Daylight community just how little behavior the developers care about implementing new game modes or more dynamic gameplay. They're notoriously sluggish at fixing bugs, even really egregious game-breaking ones. So much so that when an overpowered add-on, the flashlight, was finally nerfed, every single player pretty much agreed on this one conspiracy that it was the direct result of a developer being publicly humiliated in a match against 4 survivors with flashlights. Because the fix was implemented scarily fast for behavior standards, at least. Like, that never happens. Another piece of evidence in support of this is the long-standing, egregious, and indefensible, I don't want to hear it, hitbox problem. We have to come back to this, but let's talk about the basic structure of the game. Traditional Dead by Daylight asks 4 survivors to repair generators across a creepy map to power exit doors, allowing for their escape from the designated killer, who's also a player, with a suite of special abilities at their disposal to hook and eventually kill survivors, depending on how many times they've been hooked. There are a variety of original survivors and killers to choose from based off of original horror stories released by the Behavior team. A handful of these are free. Then there are licensed characters and killers like Ellen Ripley and the Xenomorph from Alien franchise, Mike Myers, Trevor Belmont, and Dracula from the Castlevania franchise. You get it. Those you pay for, and just as an aside, some of these characters' custom outfits can cost 15 real world dollars, not for the character, for the outfit. Anyway, in their defense, Behavior has been known from time to time to run little events that switch up the basic gameplay mode of Dead by Daylight, but none of these changes were really impactful or made permanent, much to the community's chagrin. And to my knowledge, none of these modes ever supplanted the deeply maligned and way overdone standard generator model that takes over all these maps. So why are the generators so deeply maligned, and is it just me? No, I don't think so. But I will say, speaking just for myself, this is boring. This is boring. Every time, every map. And, like, okay, yeah, the generators make sense if I'm, like, escaping one of the haunted farm maps or the suburban maps, but the upcoming Castlevania DLC features Dracula's castle. Am I going to be running around fixing generators in that? Spoiler alert. Yeah, probably, because that's what every other frickin' DLC has asked us to do regardless. Even the Alien map, same generators. And here's the thing, what we've seen of the Castlevania DLC has fucking smacked, except for Trevor Belmont's model. I don't get into that. And I don't want this gorgeous, creepy, immersive castle to be broken by the same ugly generator model. I don't think it's naive to say that they could easily just, like, reskin that. Even just on a fucking superficial level, can they do something with it? I don't think that's too much to ask. I don't think that's me being, like, ignorant to game development. I think that's somebody being a little lazy. Why can't the skill checks be changed up? Why can't this be a mini game? It's every other game has managed to do something different, so it doesn't make sense to me why we're making excuses for Dead by Daylight and Behavior. It's been nearly a decade. Like, don't get me wrong, this is a fine game model for one type of game. Why is the entirety of Dead by Daylight's model reduced down to hitting the space bar? It's basically the only fucking thing you do in this game if you boil it down, and that makes me feel like a schmuck. Maybe this is just my fault. When questions like these are raised in community spaces, when the question of the hitboxes, and we'll get there, relax. When the question of hitboxes are raised in community spaces, there's a lot of hemming and hawing and making excuses for what's actually possible in this game engine. But it seems fantastically implausible to me, a know-nothing, that they've written themselves into a corner where this is like the only option for gameplay, and there can be no deviation from this without breaking the structural integrity of the game. That makes no sense. Why would they have like built that insane house of cards of programming? That's not like a reason we should accept anyway, even if that is the truth. Like, that's just not fair. Remember, cosmetics can cost $15 for one outfit for one character. A character you already likely had to fucking pay for. And the game is not free to play. It's not just like insanely expensive, the cosmetics and all the DLC and stuff. It's nonsensical, the pricing. An entire DLC, for instance, ran me $8. I'm talking characters, maps, the works. And one outfit can cost you $15. That's bananas. That's robbery. It's indefensible. And you can say, oh, just don't buy it then. Well, whatever. You go get a job. You go get a job. Okay? Go. Another huge problem holding back Dead by Daylight is that, yeah, there are a ton of licensable killers that you can buy if you want to spend $50, but you will only ever see like 3 of them in rotation. That's because the game is so horrifically unbalanced that most killers don't end up getting touched after their debut weekend. And if you want to try out a killer for yourself, good luck, because the queue times are insane in normal 4v1 gameplay, let alone 2v8. Every time I tried to queue for the killer in 2v8, I hit double digits. Speaking of 2v8, what is that? Well, you beautiful idiot, context clues should have informed you that it's 2 killers working against 8 survivors to fix 8 generators. Yes. Behavior introduced this game mode as a beta test after players begged for years, and they've since extended it due to popular demand. They admit themselves that 2v8 has a long way to go before it can be considered for a permanent play mode, but there's already some reason to be concerned. Skillful killers in this mode can absolutely dominate and tunnel survivors in toxic ways that should be remedied and remediated by behavior. For instance, if you're being tunneled by both killers in 2v8 and one hits you, there is no cooldown period before you can get hit again by the second killer. That means if you're in a chase and one killer gets you, basically you're done. Then, of course, there's still the issue of queue times, and there's not really a good solution out there for that either. But other asymmetrical games don't seem to have this problem, so I'm not really sure where to go. Fans of any gamer want to do this, but players of Dead by Daylight have developed some abject coping mechanisms. They'll say things like, oh, the hitbox problem isn't actually a problem, it's just the internet connection between the survivor and the killer, and actually there's no way to solve it. Bullshit, every other game has, so... Look, there's going to be elements of lag in any multiplayer game, you're just going to have to deal with that, but it's really egregious in Dead by Daylight, and I don't know why people keep making excuses for it. Look at this. There's just no way every single one of these people in the videos I'm about to show you have this bad of internet. Please keep in mind, some of this footage is years old. The way people justify this is that the game is deferring to the killer's internet connection, so if it seems unfair on the survivor's part, that's just because it's deferring to whatever the killer did. But I've never had this problem in another multiplayer. Why are we making excuses for this? They're making money. If they're not making enough money to hire developers to fix this, then that's strictly a fault of their own mismanagement, because they should be making money hand over fist. There is no denying that Behavior struck gold with their simple gameplay format back in 2016. But 10 years out, it's time that we acknowledge that they've been coasting on that success. If they don't want to improve this game or make it playable, they should be honest about that. Because if you can wave off the hitbox issue, you don't really care about gameplay, which makes me doubt if you care about the game.